Man, yes, Richard, this is happening tonight. Sorry, I had set this up and then Rooney did his presser, so I had to do a quick dash. But we're here. This is happening tonight. And what a bunch of just awful fun that was. So Derby were pretty dreadful in the second half. If I'm going to be honest with you, I thought they were awful. Far too much space allowed to Horgan, far too much space allowed to Ikpeazu, and then once Wycombe made a change out on the right hand side, far too much space allowed down that side as well. It was bad. On another day, they'd have lost that game 3-1, 4-1, 4-2. But they didn't, so we don't care about that. Ikpeazu won 9 fouls tonight. Now, I know people were complaining that they were cheap fouls and some of them weren't fouls and all that sort of stuff. But like he won them, and at some point you have to adapt and adjust to know what he's doing. If you know that is what he's going to do, to then repeatedly do that 9 times in a professional football environment, to me, is pretty unacceptable. Like whether they're cheap or soft or not is kind of irrelevant, because that means you are still committing the same mistakes to give them away, and that has to stop. It just has to stop. That it was. Similar to when Akinfenwa were played in the home game, where they just never really dealt with him. Ikpeazu, for me, was probably man of the match. I thought he was really, really good. Not only the fouls that he won, but his hold-up play was brilliant. He got on the end of like nearly every cross. He was really, really good. Horgan was another one that was excellent as well. Mengi really struggled with him, because Horgan was doing this thing where he would drop just deep enough to make Mengi think about, well, do I have to go out and commit to him, or is my midfield guy going to take him and pass him off? And in the end, neither of them did it for a lot of instances, and he just picked the ball up in this little pocket of space, little half space in the left channel, and he just moved either inside or outside, and it caused Derby a lot of problems. Rooney said in his press conference that Matt Clark is okay. Wallop, that's always nice. And he's hopeful that he's going to be fit for Friday. It seems like it was just an impact injury and a sore back, and he's going to be okay. So that's good. Once he went off, Ikpeazu's dominance really did show. Now, he was battling with Andre Wisdom for a lot of the game. But once Edmondson came on, he moved on to him a little bit, and he kind of bullied Edmondson, if I'm honest, at least in my opinion. He kind of bullied him. He won pretty much every ball against him. Edmondson really didn't look comfortable trying to deal with him, and gave away a couple of cheap fouls against him as well. So, yeah, that was not really good. And coming in from the cold, being a centre-back coming in from the cold, can understand, but I would expect him to deal with that better, if I'm honest. The good stuff from Derby, David Marshall had a pretty good game as well. Without him, they probably do concede a couple of goals. The good stuff from Derby, the late winner, is always welcome. It's a really good free kick from Wycombe. And look, you know, when it hits the post like that and rebounds, you just want you guys to be on their toes and alive to it, and Wisdom is. Wycombe had a weird game. In open play, I thought he was kind of meh, which is kind of his season in a nutshell so far, where he's kind of just, he's there, I guess. But barring one free kick, which he sends miles over the bar from 30 yards, all these set pieces were really, really good. They were really good. The corners that he put in, the 3 corners that he put in the first half were excellent. The first one, Wycombe, and it's from this set piece routine that Derby have figured out, where they basically have all these guys sort of at the back of the box, and then Kazim Richards makes the first run, and then the rest run sort of to various spots in the box around him. The first one, Allsop actually deals with really well, because it's a deep corner, which is what Derby scored from against Middlesbrough. The second one, though, where they get the goal from, is really, really, really good, because instead of sending it deep, Waghorn actually makes it a lot flatter and puts a lot of spin on it, and it just cannons off Ikpeazu's head and into the net. So I've heard a lot of people saying, well, now you've shown that a couple of times, you know, teams will start to clock onto it and do this and that. Look, how you set up and how you spring are completely different things. You can show the same. I'm going to use an American football term, or an American football analogy. You can set up with one running back and a tight end and 3 wide receivers all the time. But how you use that personnel once the ball is snapped can be different all the time. It can be different all the time. So Derby, from that pre-corner sort of arrangement, they can show that look a lot of times, and they will do. How they move once the ball is kicked and in the air, that's totally different. And how the ball is kicked is different as well. So they'll find a lot of little wrinkles in that, a lot of nuances, a lot of little variants on that. And you're going to see that a lot. Until a team proves they can defend that consistently, they'll roll that out. And they should do. It's a really good routine. I am almost certainly going to write 1,200 words on it. And you are almost certainly all going to read it, because that's how we do. I thought this was another example of Derby not really being able to break down a robust team in terms of how compact they are. I've done a piece about this where when a team is nice and spread and open, Derby, under Rooney, Derby are pretty good. They get the ball to Bielik and in central areas. The wide players are able to pick up pockets all over the shop, and Derby generally have a field day. Against compact teams, they really struggle, and that was the case again today. It was... yeah! And that was the case again today, where they really struggled in between the lines. Centrally, Graham Shinney did a lot more defensive work than he did on the ball and going forward, which he's become a lot better at under Rooney. And Jason Knight was kind of the same. Patrick Roberts was pretty lively when he came on. Like Patrick Roberts, like the look of Patrick Roberts. Kamil Jóźwiak is interesting. He had one moment in the second half where he gets the ball, he breaks free, and he has Kazim Richards this side, he has Lee Gregory that side, and his touch at the end is pretty poor, and Derby do well to recycle it, and Jason Knight has a shot from the edge of the area. And I tweeted this during live in the game, is Jóźwiak will drive you to absolute madness. What are you doing? We're trying to do a show here. He'll drive you to absolute madness because he's spellbinding for one moment, and then in the other moments he absolutely drives you mad because his final ball is pretty poor, and he doesn't really have consistency. I like him on the right. I do not like him on the left. We've been through this over again. I will stop ragging on this when I'm dead. I do not like Kamil Jóźwiak on the left. I think he's ineffective. Put him on the right, where he's much more direct. He likes to go at defenders on the outside and get crosses in. If the crosses suck, that's something he's got to work on. But he needs to get into those positions. But I think that I am convinced with everything in my being that there is a terrifying winger in there. There really is. There really, really is a good winger in there. Now, I'll preach patience because he's adapting to a new league in a new country. In a pandemic, which you always have to factor in because, it's a generational issue right now. But also, he's had a managerial change, and what Cocu expected of him and wants of him and what Rooney wants of him are going to be different things, and he's going to have to learn and adapt that. He's still learning his defensive duties as well. So in the stadium, when he plays, off the ball, you'll hear a lot of the coaches shout, Kamil, in. And they want him to kind of drift infield and make the pitch quite compact. And he's getting there, and he's learning that. He needs patience. But I think there's enough that he's shown that once he settles, I think he's going to be just frightening to play against. And he's scrappy. Like, he gets kicked up and down the park all week, and he gets up and he always comes back for more. And I like that about him. I think there is a quality winger in there. I truly do. Questions? Let's move on to them because you guys have been active. Is this happening tonight? Yes, Richard. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah, look, Rooney's management. So I've got a piece going up off the back of this game about Rooney and basically his relationship with Steve McLaren, which is very interesting. But while because Rooney understands that right now he is not the finished product in terms of his management, so he leans on McLaren a little bit in terms of helping him. Understand a few things in terms of, advice for how he prep things, advice for how you take sessions or not, what to do in sessions and all those sorts of bits. He deserves a lot of credit because this team under him has been good. And I know Derby have yo-yoed in and out of the relegation zone since he took charge. But when you look at the form table, I think they're like 5th or 4th since Rooney took over in an interim and now permanent capacity. So since the Wycombe game at Pride Park, they're like 5th in the form table. They've got 28 points since Rooney took over. Only the current top 4 have more. He deserves an immense, as do the coaching staff, as do Rossini and Given and Walker. They deserve a lot of credit. That, for me, is enough. 16 games, that's like, what, a third of your season? That's enough to think, yeah, we'll be fine. And there'll probably be a couple of hairy moments at times where you think, oh my God, not again. But they'll be fine. They'll be fine. They'll finish like mid-table, maybe just a tick below mid-table, and we'll all go, yeah, good season, that all things considered. Let's crack on and on to next season and bin this off. Crazy how Clark going off seemed to derail us tactically. I think the problem was Jack Jones' music, was that suddenly you had a back 4 that had 3 new parts in it. You had Mengi at right back, Edmondson at centre half, and then Forsyth at left back. Obviously, Wisdom being the only mainstay from the last game. That's going to disrupt chemistry a little bit. I think this game is a cautionary tale to Rooney before he decides he wants to change both his fullbacks again. I understand why he did it. You want to deal with Wycombe's physicality, but it was at the expense of a lot of chemistry, in my opinion. And also Byrne, once he got on, I mean, he chucked in 2 really good crosses, got down the line, I think, more times than Mengi ever did. Now, I think that was partly Mengi's responsibility to hang back a little bit and be more defensively sound. But Byrne got up and down the line, exchanged a couple of quick passes with Roberts, chucked in a really good cross. And yeah, I think that's a sign that maybe Rooney shouldn't change both his fullbacks for one game. Can you ask Sean Barker to stop calling the goalpost sticks every time on Rabs TV? I like Barks, Toby. I'll mention it. Not sure what I can do about it though. How did the new lads look? Mengi looked okay on the ball in the first half. He really struggled off the ball. I mentioned it earlier in the show where Horgan was dropping into little pockets of space in these half spaces where Mengi wasn't sure whether he had to commit or stay, and that was causing him a little bit of problems. And then in the second half, when I think performance levels dipped throughout the team, he suffered from that and wasn't really that good in the second half. He's better at centre-back. I liked the idea in principle of Rooney not wanting to disrupt the 2 centre-halves, but the answer to that is play Mengi at centre-half if and when he's needed and keep Byrne at right-back. But yeah, I thought Mengi did okay. Roberts, when he came on, I thought was pretty lively. There was a passage right at the end where he exchanged, he nutmegged a Wycombe player, exchanged a good 1-2, and then played a ball out to Knight, which if the ball was... Maybe the ball's a little bit heavy, but Knight is also really flat-footed on that. So maybe if one of those things is not that, then Knight gets on the end of that and they get a crossing. But for what he was on there for, yeah, I thought Roberts looked pretty handy. Gregory was, I don't want to say ineffective, but I thought Wycombe dealt with him quite well. And Kazim Richards. Kazim Richards really didn't have that much to feed off and didn't have that much of an influence in the game, apart from the one chance right at the end, 90th minute, where he just asked to score. It's a brilliant cross from Byrne. Excellent cross. Kazim Richards is a yard out with the goal at his mercy, and he just massively mistimes his header and it goes wide. It doesn't even go like wide for a goal kick. It kind of goes, out to the side somewhere. It's a bad header. But Gregory and Kazim Richards were largely ineffectual, but that was a good game plan from Wycombe, I think, to squeeze those lines, keep them tight, keep them contained, and not let them basically do what they did against Middlesbrough, which was win every ball, every second ball, and have runners go around them. Sometimes, teams will counter those things, and you can't really hate that. That's football, as the cliche goes. You have to find new ways. Who else did we? Edmondson, he was okay. I thought Ikpeazu bullied him a lot, though, if I'm honest. Now, that's hard coming off the bench at centre-back, in from the cold. There are 3 changes now in that back 4, and suddenly you're trying to find chemistry with everyone. He did all right, if I'm being generous, but Ikpeazu really did dominate him in the air, in my opinion. But look, it's his first start off. I think he had hernia surgery not long ago or something like that. So, it's something to build off. It was fine, but he has to be better in the air. Where was Sibley tonight? I think Louis Sibley is, I'm not going to say in the doghouse, because I don't think he is. Rooney likes him and likes his application. He's just not played that well, in my opinion, recently. The Sheffield Wednesday game where Derby lost 1-0, where Sibley was on the left, he really didn't play well at all. And since then, it's been off the bench, and getting minutes here and there. And I think when you play a 4-4-2 as well, or you're playing a 4-3-3, but it's a deep midfielder instead of a 10, there's also no room for him because he's basically, I think, a pure a 10 where he likes to get the ball high up the pitch on the half turn and run at defenders. If you're not going to play either of those systems that use a 10, you ask, where does simply fit in? Now, there is a place for him in this squad, but right now, as a young man that's still developing and is going through a tricky spell with a bit of form, he's been pulled from the squad, and I think right now maybe best for him. As Max Bird had a spell on the bench, and obviously he's slowly been working his way back into the side. There are, being dropped, I don't think spells the end for players. In Dwayne's Holmes' case, it did, but there were reasons that Rooney articulated for that. But I think in the case of like Sibley, it's just a case of no matter how old or young you are, if you're not playing well, other players have a chance to step up and stake their claim for a place in the squad. Feel like we always invite more pressure on when Bird comes on the pitch. I really like him, but he hasn't been the same for months. Thoughts, Jack? That's an interesting question. So I think that in itself isn't Bird's fault. So when you're going to bring on an extra midfielder, which Derby have done for the last couple of games, and go to a 3, I think the idea is to give solidity in midfield, because Derby for a couple of games now have started to get a little overrun in that area when in the second half of games. But he's been brought on in situations where Derby are already giving up pressure. That's not Bird's issue. That's not Bird's fault. That's a team. That's a collective effort where they have to play higher up the pitch. They have to just keep a higher line up the pitch. I agree in that, yes, they do invite more pressure when Bird is on the pitch, but I don't think Bird is the cause of that pressure, because they were already being pressured. I don't think that is the cause of it. But I agree to an extent that they need to find a way to start pushing higher up the pitch and not falling back and dropping deep when he comes on, and they make that midfielder 3 to try and shore up the middle of the park, and they tend to then give more freedom down the sides, and that's going to happen. It also means that then they basically just play on the counter attack, and by playing on the counter attack, it naturally means you are going to sit deeper because you're trying to soak up that pressure and then spring. So there are a lot of strands to it. I don't think this is exclusively a Max Bird problem, but I agree in principle that, yeah, they kind of need to stop doing that because on a different day, Wycombe would have won that game. They didn't, and it doesn't matter, and we don't care, and we move. But you can't. If they turn a performance in against a more clinical side, and as Rooney said in his presser, he was really angry with the performance. They'll lose matches. So they have to be better. Roberts to start against Watford. Tom Lumo, maybe. Maybe. The thing is now is that, well, Wycombe in open play has been so-so. His set pieces have been really good lately. By lately, I mean the last 2 games. His set pieces have been really good. And Jóźwiak, never quite know what you're going to get from him. So it's who would you leave out? Now, I'm inclined to say Wycombe for his form in open play not being great, but also because I'll bang this table again, that I don't like Jóźwiak on the left. I want him on the right. So I would put Roberts on the left. Now, he was on the right when he came on. So I don't know. But yeah, I think that Rooney has also, we have to see how he recovers after that knock. I mean, he was good enough to get 20 minutes off the bench. So you would assume that given 3 days of training, he would be okay to start a game. But yeah, I think he's made a fine case to start. Hat game strong. Appreciate you, Charlie. Thank you. Jóźwiak is missing his best mate Bielik. Ridley, that's an interesting one because Bielik was always one that Bielik saw the passes and released the passes so early and on time, and so runners could run onto them rather than having to stop their run to collect the ball to then go and go. I think Jóźwiak is much more effective when he's running onto a ball and then can beat a man rather than having to start with his pace and go again. I think a lot of people in that side are missing Bielik. I think out on the left, whoever's out there, sometimes it's been Jason Knight. On this last 2 occasions, it's been Wycombe. Him being able to basically just spray those balls really early, and the fullbacks bombing on are also missing him because he releases balls so early. Do you think we revert to 4-3-3 against more expansive opposition in Watford on Friday? Jack Jones Music, second question. Yeah, I do. I think this system is kind of explicitly for rigid teams. And I think we've seen twice it works. Now, against Middlesbrough, they were very good in the first half and I wouldn't say hung on, but managed the game well in the second half. And against Wycombe, God knows how we got out of that with 3 points, but we're criminals and we don't care. But yeah, I think this is more to break down those compact teams. And Rooney has said time and time again that he doesn't quite know why Derby struggle against these teams that are more robust. Kind of answered it in the question against Middlesbrough, where he basically said they couldn't play through Middlesbrough, so they had to play over Middlesbrough. And that seems to be the case with a lot of teams like that in those compact areas where you're not going to play through them. You have to play over them. And that's where Koku really struggled because he just insisted, no, we will play through you. And it just didn't work. So yeah, against more expansive opposition that will leave spaces around in central areas and in those channels, I expect them to revert back to 4-3-3 because I think they can have a lot of joy doing that. Uzviak is grossly overrated. I don't think so. I just think he's kind of struggling to settle. But I think he's much better than Joseph Zoon ever was. I think he offers an awful lot more than Joseph Zoon ever did. New country, new league. Shortened pre-season, so he didn't really get a good run of pre-season under him, and a change in manager. That kind of sucks for him. But I think he's done okay. Like as a body of work, I think he's done okay. Where are we? What have we got here? No Sibley. Yeah, Tom, no Sibley. That was just Rooney likes him. He's got good application in training. But if we're honest, and I think if we are honest, he's just not played that well recently. The Sheffield Wednesday game, he was poor. Now he's out on the left, but he didn't play that well. And if it's 4-4-2 and you've got two deep midfielders, there's no room for Sibley as a 10. And if it's 4-3-3, and you're not playing a 10, but you're actually playing with a holding midfielder and then two sort of number 8s and then a guy as a 6. There's no room for him there either. I don't think there's anything particularly menacing or ominous about him being left out. I just don't think that, one, he fit the two systems Rooney knew he would probably oscillate between tonight, and two, I don't think he's played particularly well recently, and I think that's fine for now. Top 6 next season. We'll see. Look, Ridley, there is an awful lot to shake out between this season and next. As of right now, Derby are going to go into next season with, I believe, only Jack Marriott as a striker under contract. Wycombe's contract is up. Kazim Richards' contract is up. Lee Gregory will go back to Stoke. And I think his contract is up as well. And Wycombe isn't particularly, high in the pecking order. Marriott, not Wycombe, Marriott. It says a lot about Jack Marriott standing with Rooney, that Rooney needed a striker, he knew he needed a striker, and he still chose to send Marriott back out on loan to Sheffield Wednesday. I think that says a lot. So there needs to be a lot that shakes out, because Matt Clark is going to go back to Brighton. Boy, would Derby like to get him on a loan again. By all accounts, Brighton are incredibly high on Matt Clark, and it would take a lot. It would take at least 4 million to get him, which is what Brighton paid for him. It would take at least that, and I don't think Derby have that. I mean, they struggle to pay their players' wages. I don't think they have 4 million quid to throw at Matt Clark. So Matt Clark is going to go back. The 5 loanees are going to go back. That's 6. You've then got Kazim Richards out of contract. That's 7. You've got Wagon out of contract. 8. Who else? Andre Wisdom, 9. Okay, not all of those guys will leave, I imagine, but that is still a lot of moving parts, and you have to figure out what you're doing with them all. But I like what Rooney's building here so far. I like it. I think he knows how to build a team. He has a very clear idea of what he wants from the team that he is building. So top 6, I'm not ready to commit like that just yet. Top half? Yeah, sure. Top half. Mengi looks static at times. Yeah, I think he was a bit confused about whether to stick or twist in terms of, am I going, am I staying, am I pressing out to the winger, or am I just staying flat in my position? It's fine. He's not had a senior start for Manchester United yet. I think this was his first senior start for anybody. He's 18, 19. It's fine. They got out of jail free there. He'll learn. I imagine he is going to go back to the bench for the next game. But right now, no harm done. Any update on Ibe? The last update was that Ibe is getting better, and that is all that Rooney said. He's getting better, and he's doing some work with the fitness guys. They're being careful with him, but he's getting better, so that's good. What else we got here? Opinion on Craig Forsyth. I think Craig Forsyth is really good with the ball at his feet, actually, in terms of like picking passes. And he's good at doing that thing where he's on the flank and he plays a pass through the lines into central areas and into the forwards and into a running on midfielder. Speed lets him down, which is natural. You know, his knees have had, 3 torn ACLs, and also he's 31, 32. So speed lets him down there. And I think sometimes, in the air, I think he's okay. I think he's pretty good in the air. I think he doesn't fall asleep the same way Buchanan does. So we've seen Buchanan kind of fall asleep at the back with his man at the back post a few times when the ball has gone out over the other side and he drifts in field. I don't think Forsyth does that as much. But yeah, I think he's okay. Right, guys, 25 minutes, big one this evening. 25 minutes. Thank you all so very, very, very much for tuning in yet again. Love the thing that we've created here. Remember when this was just like bullet points on Twitter? Now we're here doing 25-minute shows on YouTube. It's wonderful, and I love all of you for it. Thank you so very much. If you're a key worker, or even if you're not, even if you're out there like supermarkets or whatever it is, cleaning, whatever it is, out there in a pandemic, thank you so very much. I'm fortunate. I'm sure some folks in here are fortunate that we can work from home. Some of you folks won't be. So thank you so very much for doing that. That is awesome. You all enjoy the rest of your evening. And yeah, we'll see you Friday. Take it easy, guys and girls. Bye.